Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar, which is the second in a three-part series titled SiHy One Day. The time is now. Why quality matters more than ever. I am Dr. Steve Rosinski, Senior Manager of Professional and Academic Affairs at CooperVision. Last week, we discussed the health and safety opportunities with SiHy One Day. Tonight, we will discuss how fellow ODs are making remarkable advances in their practices and patient satisfaction by leaning into SiHy One Day contact lenses. Now more than ever, patients need reassurance that they're getting maximum value for their money. Let's learn tonight how to educate your patients on the quality and ocular health benefits of SiHy One Day lenses. Just like last week, we have three of your peers to share their insights here with us tonight. We have Dr. Jack McIntyre of Doctors McIntyre and Garza in Corpus Christi, Texas. Thanks for joining us tonight, Dr. Jack.
My pleasure.
Next, we have Dr. Drew Provost of Great Hills Eye Care in Austin, Texas. Thanks as well, Dr. Drew.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
And last but not least, we have Dr. Jennifer Stewart of Norwalk Eye Care from Norwalk, Connecticut.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us here this evening. So we'll get started here, and I'll pose the question here to Dr. Jen here at first because she's at the top left of my screen, just like we did last time. So when we are looking at this, we're talking SiHy One Days. The time is now, right? And when we are thinking about a contact lens and assessing the quality of a contact lens, what actually goes into the equation when you were thinking about a quality of a contact lens? What would you say?
For me, it starts with comfort. I think patients are willing to overlook things like price, but if a lens isn't comfortable, they're not going to want to wear it. And I think for me, the lens I choose tends to be the lens I know that it's going to be the most comfortable for them. And it doesn't just have to be comfortable when they put it on. It's the lens that's most comfortable at the lunchtime, dinner time, and tonight we're on, I'm on Eastern Standard Time. So, as we head into the evening, and a lot of us are doing evening calls and meetings, the comfort of the lens and how it performs throughout the day for me is what drives my decisions and what contact lenses I'm giving my patients.
No, that's great to hear. I mean, when we're thinking about it, especially, some of the insights that we're getting out of this kind of as we're, learning from COVID and some of the influences. What we're seeing as well is that patients are actually wearing their contact lenses more days a month and longer even each day as well. So like you're saying, comfort matters. How about yourself, Dr. Drew? What are you thinking on your end?
I think it's a balance of comfort and vision out of the lens. Also look at the consistency of the material that comes into play. And one thing I like about some of the new SiHy One Day lenses are the handling, especially for a lot of these presbyopic hyperopes. That has been really helpful.
Yeah, I imagine too, like some of those newer wearers too, right? Like if we think about it, if that lens isn't handling well, I mean, I'm sure we all have stories of which, we've had some of those newer wearers that, especially if the lens isn't handling well, it's just putting them at a disadvantage to start with, right? So yeah, that handling definitely comes into play here. And how about you, Dr. Jack? What are you looking for?
Right. I think, if it's not comfortable, all bets are off after that. Obviously, the vision. I think the rest of them, they're important. They're a piece of the puzzle. And once in a while, particularly in South Texas, someone may ask about UV. Handling's important, particularly like with the teenagers. They have to handle well. But yes, I think definitely if they're not comfortable, and then secondarily, if they can't see, then the rest of it doesn't matter quite so much.
So Dr. Jack, you brought up a great point. You said UV, right? Being in Texas, and I know Dr. Drew, you're in Texas as well. Does anyone have that conversation with their patients about UV? I mean, how does that resonate even? So I'd love to hear that and open up to the audience here.
Yeah, I can take that one, Steve. And absolutely, the patients are very interested in health, even more so now in the last 6 months. And if I don't bring it up as one of the benefits of the one-day silicone hydrogels to the patient in discussion, like Dr. Jack was saying, they will ask about what are some other healthy things that they can do for their eyes. And I always mention that the lens that we're using for them has UV blocking. And especially like you said, and we're in Austin, Texas. I mean, it's sunny 360 days a year here. I mean, no kidding. We were just in the pool yesterday. So it's, everybody's out in the sun all the time, and they're definitely thinking about that. And UV blocking is an important aspect of the lens.
Wonderful. And when we talk UV as well, does that sometimes surprise patients that there's UV built into a contact lens?
I think so. I think, again, it gives value and it gives a reason why you're fitting the contact lens. And I think a lot of us take the information that we know for granted, and we know it has UV. And I think we make the assumption that patients know that, or they see it on the box. I mean, how many patients don't even know the brand or power of contact lenses they're wearing? So, they don't even know what the color is of the box. Like, there's no way that they see the little UV on there. So, I think we often make these assumptions about what our patients know. And, when we have a new staff member come in, when we're training them to pre-test, we say, I know that this is, the 30th time you've done this today, but for that patient, it's the first time. And, I think we have to go into our contact lens exams with that in mind, that while we know that UV is in these lenses, we can't expect that our patients know that. So I try and make it a point to say, I'm prescribing this lens for you because of your prescription, of the curvature of your cornea, but also because it has UV protection. And, Mrs. Smith, you mentioned you play tennis. I know in Connecticut, we don't have quite that many sunny days, but, when we have them, we're out there. So, and I live near the water. I practice in a water community. So we have a lot of boaters and people that sail and play tennis and golf. So, for me, it just drives home the reason why I'm selecting this contact lens for this person. And, I just, again, think we take that for granted that they know it's in there. And I think a lot of doctors just forget that our patients don't read our minds. And, especially in the competitive world of contact lenses, making sure that the patient knows that we're selecting this lens for them and it has this added value for the UV. I think it just, tomorrow when I go to practice, I know that's what I'm going to remind myself of every single contact lens patient I see.
No, wonderful. And that's really the thing, is trying to think about, like, we see so many patients on a regular basis, right? It's remembering, with each patient is a new opportunity, right? A new opportunity to really have that conversation. And it can be hard when we are seeing a number of patients on a regular basis, but it's, continue to have that conversation, because I know last time we talked about the whole education piece of it, right? And how important that is. So, I guess I'll ask, because I know, Dr. Drew, you brought this up about kind of over the last 6 months, right? How things may have changed over the last 6 months. And so what sort of changes have you all made here in the last 6 months? Such as maybe even leaning further into silicone hydrogel 1-days, or just considering upgrading those monthly or 2-week wears. So what have you done in your practice? What changes have you made?
Well, I would say, Steve, in the last couple of years that we've already been doing a lot of that, but the big difference is that in the last 6 months, the patients are even more receptive to it. So that conversation is really a lot easier. Having a lot more patients actually ask us about it before we even get into the conversation. Even at the beginning of the exam, hey, I'm really using my eyes more on the computer. I'm, wearing my contact lenses longer hours. What are some things I can do? And so it's really a great lead in to the 1-day silicone hydrogel lens as the best option for them.
Now, have you changed maybe what your staff has been saying, or has it been basically all along you've been maybe having your staff kind of plant the seed about a 1-day contact lens?
Well, we did start, doing some education pieces with the staff in the last 6 months, about some of the changes that we made in the practice, but also some of the things that we're recommending to patients because of those changes. So silicone hydrogel 1-days has been one of those things. And we have a lot of staff members that actually wear 1-day silicone hydrogel lenses. So that's great when they can do, they're doing contact lens trainings with new wearers, or they're talking to patients about their prescription, and they can say, oh, that's the lens I wear, or, I love that lens. So it's really been an effort for the whole office.
Yeah, nothing beats that when you have the opportunity to say, that's what I wear, right? Mm-hmm. So that's always comforting, I would say, even on patient side as well. So how about, Dr. Jack, Dr. Jen, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think the pandemic has got a lot of us more focused. We were probably doing a lot of these things, but this has really focused it. And then my understanding is the online sellers, profits, are going through the roof, and they want to convince patients that all contacts are the same. So I think all this really helps that. My favorite book is Differentiate or Die. And I think Dr. Jen and Drew talked about this. It talks about that, just you need to be different. If you're not, then when they see a X lens commercial on TV, they're going to think, well, they're all the same. But we know they're not. So whether it's UV, high oxygen, 1-day silicone, it's all part of it. And then, as Jen said, just having that great conversation with, I'm choosing this lens for these reasons. And it gives them something to even maybe take home. So they can, when they get home and someone says, why'd you buy those or why'd you buy it there? Oh, she explained why. And so I think it's very important, particularly nowadays.
And I would add, I think we're so focused on health. We have a high percentage of daily disposables. We tend to range between 88 to 92%. But I think, having the daily conversation for, a practice that might be struggling, patients are so focused on hygiene and cleanliness, more so than ever before. And maybe we should have always been. But, I had a friend come in this week who's been wearing a monthly lens, and, she takes great care of it. She does exactly what she's supposed to do. And I said, did anyone ever mention a daily disposable? And she said, no. And I said, how about I give you the opportunity when you come home from, going grocery shopping or you're out running errands, we all are washing our hands and even showering the minute we come in. And I said, but you're just putting that lens back in a case and then you're cleaning it, but you're putting it back in the morning. And she said, oh my gosh, I never thought of it like that. And I said, what if I could give you the opportunity when you get home, you toss those lenses away and now you put in a fresh pair? And she's like, that's perfect. I think we just, again, assume the patients either don't want to do it or, we kind of put that in our minds that they're going to not want to do this. But especially in this era of hygiene, I think it's our duty to give our patients the best lenses that are healthiest and cleanest. And, if we can increase the amount of daily disposables that we're prescribing, again, we're giving value to it. We're not just saying, here's a lens I want to give you, just try it. But if we have that, 3-second conversation about the hygiene and just connect the dots of, you have a fresh lens in the morning after you've been out all day. I mean, who doesn't want that? So again, giving that differentiation and giving them the reason why you're prescribing that lens for them.
No, absolutely. So I want to transition now a little bit into more about, I would say, SiHy 1-day, but more specifically on the MyDay Tour, right? So I'm curious to see, to hear what you have to say to your patients, because I know all three of you actively prescribe, the MyDay Tour. And as you all know, it has the same proven design, stabilization design of the Biofinity Toric. And so if I'm sitting in your chair, right, and you're choosing to prescribe MyDay Toric for me, what do you say, right? And because that's where I'd love just kind of hear that. And what's the story that you tell? So, I'll go to Dr. Drew here first.
Sure. So, if it's somebody that's transitioning from a monthly lens, especially if they were in a Biofinity Toric, that's one thing I point out to them is we're, now able to give you the same stability in a 1-day silicone hydrogel lens. We're going to have that fresh lens feeling every single day. But the stability piece to me really matters a lot because I've had so much success with the Biofinity Toric. And in that in turn has led to, I've seen the success now in our practice with the MyDay Toric. So that's really, in addition to the design itself, we have a lot of dry eye here in Austin, just like everywhere, and especially lots of allergies here. And so we put people in 1-day lenses a lot of times when they're having problems with ocular allergy. Therefore, that allergy has the potential to affect the stability of those toric lenses when the lenses are being reworn. So we've been able to make some headway with people that have allergy problems and keep them in their lenses longer or more hours during the day by moving them to the MyDay Toric.
Yeah, it's not like patients want to get out of their contact lenses, right? And, if you can help provide them with a way to stay in that, I mean, you just look that much better, right? We already know you're great, Drew, right? But then if we continue to really be able to do that for our patients, right? If you can keep those patients wearing contact lenses, that's huge. So how about you, Dr. Jack? What are you thinking on your end? What do you say to your patients?
Yeah, Drew's right. I mean, it's just a easy transition into it. What I do is I tell them, I said, just like I ask people, how do your lens feel at 5 o'clock? Instead of just asking them, how you doing? And they go, fine. I do the same thing with the monthly versus the daily. I say, how do the lenses feel after 2 to 3 weeks? And many times the patient will say, oh, they start out great, and then second, third, into the 4th week. I said, right, so that means things aren't going well. The cornea is beginning to react to the lens. So that's been a big thing too. And as Drew mentioned, I just say you get that first day feeling every day. And it really, dropouts are a problem for all of us, the industry and all of us. And it's, I've always read that we're getting as many people in and out like for decades. So I think this could have a huge impact on, they just don't drop out.
Yeah, no one wants dropouts to the practice. I mean, when you think about it from the financial aspect of it as well. And even personally, I remember like for me, it was like, I don't want patients dropping out of contact lenses. Like I personally felt that. I'm sure, Dr. Jen, I know the competitive person that you are, I can tell that stings a little bit too. Right?
Personal affront. I take it very personally. So.
Absolutely. Now, thinking about like the MyDay example, right? Like when we prescribe that lens to your patients, we understand like the benefits in which they are receiving, right? But, what do you find that your practice, like what benefits does your practice get out of being able to prescribe? And let's talk specifically at this point of, the MyDay Tour. Let's talk specifically on that 1-day silicone hydrogel toric.
So, I think for me, the MyDay Tour combines the best of both worlds. And I have brief conversations because I spend a lot of time chatting. So, and I tell them, the great news is it combines the design of my favorite lens for astigmatism with the comfort of my favorite daily disposable. And how lucky are you that they made a combination of those two? And, the benefits to my practice, again, dropout is huge, but I watch dropout also, not just patients who stop wearing contacts, but those patients who are the slow dropout. And I also take that personally, but, they're the patients who, every year ordered an annual supply, and then they come in and, okay, Steve, it looks like, it's time to order your annual supply. And you go, yeah, I still have lenses left from last year. And I go, well, unless you rewore them, which I know you didn't, are you wearing them less? Yeah, I just noticed during the week I've been leaving my glasses on because I've been working from home and my eyes feel tired. And a lot of us just say, oh, that's, fine. But that's a dropout, that's dropout for, they might not have equated that to maybe their eyes are feeling dry, but that's a great opportunity to hop in there and say, well, the great news is I have a lens that's going to keep you wearing your lenses. Do you want to wear your lenses more during the week? And we all, again, make an assumption that they want to wear their glasses, but they might not want to do that, but they don't want to tell you that. So, the dropout for me, I've seen less of that with lenses like MyDay, especially the lens for astigmatism, because patients not only are seeing better, because they're in a lens, a lot of us put them in spheres just to make life easy and, go, well, it's close enough. But with the MyDay toric, I don't feel I have to make that choice, and I can keep them in the lens for astigmatism, have them see as clear as possible, and they continue to buy those annual supplies.
No, wonderful, and all great information. And when you think about it too, and we're talking, about the astigmatism, right? And it's been shown that patients that have uncorrected astigmatism, right, like their overall visual outcome, is not going to be nearly as good. And I guess, with that, I'll open up to all three of you here and talking about like, with actively prescribing toric lenses, right? When we think about that too, right? Because we look at the number of patients that actually really could benefit from, and I believe that's, the number that I've heard is 47% of patients have at least 3/4 a diopter or more of astigmatism in one eye, right? Those that wear spectacles, right? And when we look at the numbers of patients that are actually in a toric lens, they're like in the 20s, like 20 percentile, right? 20th%. And, from that standpoint, like, would you say that, and like I said, I'll open this up to, are you actively, or are you being proactive with putting patients into a toric lens that might even be on the borderline?
Yeah, I definitely am. I have a background in sports and performance vision, and my athletes can't be blurred. And, to me, undercorrecting or giving them the spherical equivalent, I'm not doing my job to keep them performing at the highest level. But that's not only my athletes. I think everyone benefits from having their correct prescription. And in the past, lenses for astigmatism made it difficult. It was more chair time, it was harder. And I think we all had this, oh gosh, I'll just do the best I can. And you have a diopter and a half of astigmatism, you see okay, but those become our dropout patients. They know they're not seeing well. So I think everyone from my, professional athlete to my first time wearer, even if they have a small amount of astigmatism, they should be wearing a toric lens.
Yeah, I'll go to Dr. Jack then too, because I know like with where we are in current environment, right? Efficiency matters, right? So, how does choosing a toric lens does that impact what you are doing on like your schedule for your patients? And, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's more important than ever, the patient flow, the efficiency, and to have a lens you can just fit and you don't have to really worry about it. You can't really have patients coming back for repeated follow-ups, complaining about things. And with the MyDay Toric, you just don't see that. So I think it works out really well. Also, we've been talking about annual supplies for years now. And the thing about it is, if you sell an annual supply, then they're out of the market. So I won't mention any names, but, the internet people, you don't care about an ad if you just bought a product. So if you just bought something, a vacuum cleaner, you don't care about a vacuum cleaner ad because you just bought one. So we try to do an awful lot with the annual supplies also. I think that's an important part of it.
And with that, I imagine, when we're talking annual supplies, there's such a big component of, I would say, staff involvement. At least when I had my practice, right, it was the staff involvement aspect of it. And I'd love to hear from the three of you is how involved do you have your staff in this conversation? Are you talking more about selling the contact lens, or is that more of like a conversation that you have your staff get involved with?
Well, I know for us, Steve, we kind of go into it with education from the doctor on, they're going to be wearing their lenses every day. We would recommend an annual supply, but really with the staff mindset is they are getting an annual supply. So we always approach it that way. The staff is not allowed to say, how many boxes do you want? So, and especially with, if depending on the lens, I know we're talking specifically on MyDay Toric, but if there's a rebate available and, we've kind of worked all that out ahead of time, of course. So, there's a really good value proposition to the patient, on the annual supply, shipped direct to their house. And so it just makes it really seamless and easy, especially now, with the last 6 months, people love that. It just goes straight to them. They don't have to come into the practice to get it.
So in our practice, the only questions I want to hear are, do you want your annual supply shipped home or to your office? And now it's actually, do you want it shipped home? So, we've been very, we don't, yeah, exactly. There's no how many boxes. I always threaten to put a jar and that I'm going to make somebody put $1 in every time I hear it. So, it's an assumptive sale. It's an annual supply unless, we need to do a box per eye to get them through to the next exam. But, I mostly have the conversation in the exam room. But again, that's exactly what I say. We'll ship, I don't even ask. I just say, we'll ship that annual supply straight to your doorstep. And that's what I say. And patients go, oh, wow, you could ship it home. Well, yeah, but, I have that assumption that there's no reason they're not going to do that annual supply. And my staff, the same thing. And, we have a really high annual supply rate, but that's what I'm watching too. And that's what I'm watching for dropout. When they say to me, oh, I'm good. That's a sign for me. Okay, what happened there? So, me having the conversation in the exam room, I'm able to step in if I notice that they're starting, that they don't need to order those lenses. I can make a change in the lens they're wearing right then and there versus letting it get out of hand a few years in a row that now all of a sudden they're not wearing contact lenses because they've ordered, 8 boxes and 6, now 4, 2, and, I just haven't been wearing them. So, me having that conversation in the exam room, I can get to the root of the problem quickly.
Right. I do the management by walking around technique, and we've banned how many boxes do you want? And my manager knows if I hear that, she's just like, I'm going to talk to her. Don't worry about it. One thing I just wanted to mention real quickly was, like, with 3/4 diopter cylinder patients, a lot of times they've been wearing sphere, and I'll say, well, there is a lens for astigmatism now on the one day, and they say, is it more expensive? That's usually their next question. So what I've just started doing routinely now is I show them. So the what's more expensive thing goes out the window almost all the times. because they see this kind of fuzzy 2025-ish, and then they see this really sharp 2020. And even people that are price conscious look at that and say, all right, I need to see. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference. And, you know, when we think about it, like you all mentioned about, you know, not mentioning boxes, right? Because patients, they don't know, like in reality, a lot of times they don't know, like, you know, if is that a 6-month supply? Is that a 3-month supply? Is that a 9-month supply, right? So I love the way that you all talk about it. It's just talking about more of like the year supply, right? Or how we're shipping that. So no, that truly is wonderful. So I know we're winding down here on time at all, but you know, I do want to say, you know, thank you, Dr. Jen, thank you, Dr. Jack, thank you, Dr. Drew. I do want to say today is Dr. Drew Provost's birthday, so I have to.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us.
No singing.
That's no singing here today, but thank you for joining us on your birthday. You know, we truly do appreciate the insights that you've given us here tonight. And stay tuned, because next week we will finish off part 3 of our 3-part series, SiHy One Day, the time is now, and that will be simplifying wearing experiences. So that is going to be next Wednesday, October 28th at 7:30 tonight, or 7:30 at Eastern time. So thank you, Dr. Jen, thank you, Dr. Jack, thank you, Dr. Drew, and wonderful conversation as always, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you everyone for joining us here today. Have a wonderful night.
Good night.